laugh, learn, and eat. Yo, Fobby on the beat. Talking leadership, making a big plays in the mortgage game through the sun and the haze. Close more deals, build your success. Time to level up and beat the stress. Get ready to laugh, learn, and eat. Laugh, learn, and eat. Your weekly scene. Let's go.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Laugh, Learn, and Eat the podcast. And as you can see on here, if you're watching our YouTube channel, which I hope you like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, cheap plug for me, you can see that it's not Justin next to me today. So surprise, Justin was called out, and so we're starting the show off a little differently than we have been normally, but I have my buddy, Duncan, next to me. How you doing, Ellen?
Hi, Fobby. I'm great. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here because it would just be myself then. I was like, that'd be a boring podcast. You know, I always thought about that. Like, could I do a podcast by myself?
Episode, you could do it. You could carry it.
I'm just not that. I see those podcasts and I got to be honest with you, man. And no offense to anybody that does it. I just feel it's cringy. For me, it's just like, it's the guy with the microphone and you're just talking to something and has no purpose. Like no one's listening.
Yeah.
So anyway, listen, little background on Ellen. Ellen just started a company called mLOOP, which is the mortgage industry's new private recruiting portal. We're going to talk more about it. She was the former CMO of AnnieMac, which is my company where I'm at, and it was a delight to work with her. She was also named Housing Wire 2025 Marketing Leader while she was working with us. And I think specifically it was big on the Don't Just Bid Win campaign.
Yes, definitely.
Which obviously you were a huge part of that. And so, you know, I think there's a lot to uncover here. And so obviously, Ellen, how's everything been going since you've kicked off mLOOP?
Thanks, Bobby. I'm so excited to be here and talk with you. So mLOOP, as you said, is a new way to think about sort of loan officers and originators, branch managers, sales leaders exploring options beyond their current lender. Things are early days, but we are live in beta. So we have an active set of loan originators and branch managers exploring opportunities. And then we have an active set of lenders that are receiving those matches, starting conversations, and, you know, potentially we'll have some people be brought on or shift lenders, where really our mission is to provide data-driven matches based on more than just sort of feel a relationship or who you know, but let originators understand maybe the grass isn't really greener, but originators are able to see what their options are based on a lot of different sort of data inputs.
Yeah. Now I got to tell you something. I don't know if you know this, and I'm going to go back a few steps here.
Sure.
But when we were working at AnnieMac together, you were the main reason why I decided to give up my DBA name. And I remember telling Joe, I said, you know what? There's no reason to like dilute the brand. Ellen's done such a great job of promoting AnnieMac and the new look and the new feel that I don't need my own DBA anymore.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. It was interesting. Our time, as you said, I've been sort of a part of the broader AnnieMac family for, probably going on around 4 or 5 years now. I have an independent consulting firm, was introduced to Joe, and Joe was very receptive from early days to a new way of looking at marketing. My background is out of the vertical. I worked for Coca-Cola. I worked on Southwest Airlines, General Motors, sort of some big brands, again, outside of obviously finance and mortgage vertical. And I do think for AnnieMac specifically, and in this industry in general, looking at marketing with a brand building, storytelling mindset is really helping certain organizations get further.
I think that's what people miss sometimes is they don't like, and I benefited from another CMO back at Pacific Union days that really schooled me, like took me down this rabbit hole that I never could see the world the same again.
Yeah.
And really came down to like, how does this make you feel? How does this picture how does this font make you feel? And it was like, oh my God, are we really talking about feelings with this stuff? And that's when I really began to understand what brand was about.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I know that DBAs, it's an interesting, even in what we're doing with mLOOP, that's one of our questions on both sides of the marketplace will a lender, allow for a team name or DBA? And then it's also on the LO side or the team side about what you want to bring over. So there's a lot of personal brands. And I do think there's and I know AnnieMac is an example of this, and others where a balance between having, a lender corporate brand but letting that power and sort of also be part of maybe a personal team or individual's brand.
I mean, I think for me, I came into it, I'll be very honest with you, and I was very honest with Joe and Gabe, that I just didn't trust owners. because of my experience with the owners of other companies, my distrust was just at such a heightened level
Yep.
that I needed to have my own DBA, my own website, my own proprietary. So if something goes wrong, I can take my group to another place and they don't even got to change their email addresses.
Yep.
And
there's definitely merit to that. And you see that in some experiences. We even see that I see that in some of the, lenders I speak to about coming on to mLOOP, where that's one of their differentiators is, that it's total sort of white labeled, everything is yours. But I do think when there's power in scale and in brand building, and I think, example of the AnnieMac brand and others out there where you're able to sort of ride that wave and be part of a broader story as well.
Yeah. Now, I noticed on LinkedIn, when I was checking your LinkedIn out a few days ago, you put mom in your LinkedIn headline next to founder and CEO, right?
I did, yep.
That's a choice, it was interesting choice of word, right? Obviously, right? You did that with intent, right?
Yes.
And so what was the intent behind all that? I mean, you're putting CEO, founder, mom.
I think being a mom is the most important role right now in my life. And so anyone that I'm working with or thinking about working with or that are, looking at opportunities and that is sort of front and center for me. I had the benefit early on in my career. I worked for Accenture, sort of a big consulting firm. I then worked for the Coca-Cola company, obviously a big corporation, and then went independent as a consultant about 6.5 years ago. But through that, that sort of North Star of being a parent, being a present parent, but also being able to have a fulfilling career is sort of something that I subscribe to and work towards every day, and something that I, not shy away from helping others do the same.
What surprised you, switching from these big Coca-Cola, Southwest companies, these multi-billion-dollar affairs, right?
Yeah.
Where, I mean, you may not even see the CEO, I guess, maybe once every other year if you're lucky or whatever, get an email or something. But now you're working intimately with the CEO on a regular basis. I guess the level of transparency is even more whatever, right? Or less, I guess, whatever that word is. What was a big thing that stuck out to you between coming from that big global brand to a smaller brand?
Great question. I think at a smaller organization, in my time at CMO of AnnieMac and a couple other organizations where I've done that role and, whether consulting or part-time capacity, is the CEOs or the president's interest in the details, and not oftentimes that can be seen as meddling or, needing to be in the weeds, but really that they oftentimes own the organization. And so that they are really wanting to understand sort of A to Z, what's happening, where the opportunity areas are, and feel a lot more, I'd say accountability to help push those through. There's less of sort of, oh, that's someone else's problem. Or remember sort of in the corporate world, it'd be like, well, whose shop is that in? And they're just thinking about who's the SVP that's over that. And they're going to just go down that rabbit hole versus going, at AnnieMac, other places they call it sort of direct to source, where it's how can I just directly go and help solve this problem, which is.
Yeah. It seems like with loan officers, and myself included, I'm in that group, you know what I mean? We really don't know what we want or even need, but we know we need something.
Yes.
So on the marketing side, right, Ellen, how frustrating is that? It's almost like being a doctor and the guy comes, I don't know where it hurt, but it hurts somewhere.
Yes, that's very well said. I think there's a lot, I think, as you look at the loan officer archetype, look at sort of a day in the life, everything that's coming at a loan officer. There's three things I learned about best way to sort of support, and then also has now, as we, build the loan officer side of mLOOP as well, is that a loan officer can be doing so many different things within one day or even within an hour, talking to a borrower, responding to real estate, talking to, an operations team manager, dealing with maybe a negative review came through on Google or Experience. It wasn't their fault. And there are so many sort of fires to put out, that things that to someone that's potentially only looking at one lane of that, marketing or processing or compliance, is it's not that hard, get it done. Or it's not, but you're not understanding you're one piece of what that LO is looking at. And so there is definitely truth, I think, to some of the stereotypes about loan officers, sometimes, saying they want something, but they really meant something else. But helping you think about, where I have found the most success is thinking about the outcome. So instead of I need a, flyer, can't we do a nurture campaign for this? I always think about, what does success look like? What are you trying to achieve? a better relationship with that current real estate, trying to get more new real estate agents, or you're trying to get back in front of a borrower that you lost. Help us understand the goal. And then as a subject matter expert in marketing, we can tell you it is a, the cringe word, it says flyer, but it is a flyer, or it is an email SMS campaign, or it is a direct go have a coffee with this person. But let us, figure out what you want to achieve, and then we can figure out the path to get there.
I had Bree Lees on a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months, and she was talking about how the mortgage industry is stuck in a flyer factory from the 1980s or something. And I was stunned by that. That's why I had her on. I was like, I want to dive deeper into that, right? And I mean, I am surprised. I am, because I know I'm pretty digital. I get on whatever John Perry says, I'm on the cutting edge on the mortgage side, whatever, right? But the loan officers really, I mean, do they use flyers in this day and age?
There's still, I would say, from what I see, in recruiting conversations, what people are looking for, there's still a lot of, I'd say not enlightened, maybe loan officers out there that don't realize, A, that as a tactic maybe isn't the most effective, but then B, some of the sort of simple plug and play systems, whether it's, whether it's TotalExpert or Maxa or, insert, even Canva or certain greenhouse, they're just not doing it to the scale, or just realize how easy it is. So then they see something and they're, frankly, like, wow, buy it. But I think there's a lot where the other, I would say, not putting all the blame on loan officers. You see a lot of realtors not knowing what to ask for besides that. And so you're put in this position where you have a realtor partner that's asking for an open house flyer, and you're not going to say no. So you're sort of in this, hamster of requests.
I guess it's just something that everyone's been so tried and true on, and they don't know like what they don't know. And sometimes I feel like that's my job with my team, right? Like they don't know what they don't know. So then now I have to go learn everything and kind of like spoon feed them a little bit at a time so they can understand it.
Yep. I think there's a lot to like the front, to your point there, from to where, 5 years ago it might've been an open house flyer, but today it's, email,
a landing page,
and a landing page, exactly, that you can send a text message to. And I think it's helping people, giving that solution. You still want to get the house information, direct, contact information to an LO and a referral link. We can do that in a new way. So you're still doing the same thing, but in a better, easier, more straightforward way.
Yeah. All right. So listen, you're on your Instagram. I started stalking you about a week ago. Right. So I was like, okay, well, this is pretty interesting stuff. And I think this is also some of the reasons, because I remember early on when I first started asking you to come on the show, which I think I started asking 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I can't remember.
Hard to get, but you probably mentioned it. Yeah.
Right. I remember tripping into your Instagram every now and then there's some very interesting stuff going on in there. Right. And you made a video recently, and there's something you said, I literally stopped and I had to write this down, and it said, and I obviously take notes, right? It says, life can be beautiful and hard, both can be true.
Yeah.
And man, I was just like, that's way beyond the business world. That's not the founder and the CEO. That's not even a mom talking. Maybe a mom talking, could be a mom talking, right? Yep. But where'd that come from?
Yeah, so I can give you a little, sort of a lot of backstory on that, but in a hopefully succinct way. Unfortunately, 4 years ago, my husband passed away very suddenly. And so that has, obviously to a certain degree become a huge part of how I look at life, experience life, navigate life now and forever. And one of the things I really learned through these 4 years and continue to learn every day is everyone experiences loss and, tragedy in their life to certain degrees, but many times over, but that everyone still has joy. And that's where I really subscribe to this thing that you sort of can hold both at any time. And I think we all, big ways, small ways, do that. And so I like to think of every day is beautiful and every day is hard, that there's always going to be hard things, whether in work, parenting, life, just the world, news, all the things. And there's always going to be really fun. I just this morning got to be at field day at my daughter's school and, see the kids doing all their fun things. And that's really great too. And so every day is hard, every day is beautiful is sort of that it's always going to be both. And I think we all strive as people to think it's all perfect all the time. But as soon as and I've had to do that with Paul's passing, just it's nothing ever is going to seem perfect, because it never was before either. But because he's not here. And so you have to sort of learn to hold both of those. And
I'd imagine like there was this vision that you had of 2026 per se, right? 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And obviously there's this puzzle or this piece of the puzzle that's no longer in that puzzle. Is that the right way to say it?
Yep, for sure. It's something I write about a good amount. So as you said, I share a lot of this journey on my personal Instagram. And I used to say sort of in year one of this new unexpected part of life was that previously I would have said, I was in my mid 30s when Paul passed. And I used to say, I knew what the next 50 years were going to be, whether where my daughter's going to go to college, something very surface level like that. What's happened with, especially the very sudden passing, is our life for sure was turned upside down, but there's so much unknown, and it's taken a lot of work, a lot of therapy, a lot of reading and reflection, but to, in a way, see that as a silver lining or a blessing. I truly don't, there are a lot of things I don't know what life's going to look like. And so it's opened up doors. I was already an entrepreneur, but now, pursuing mLOOP, pursuing some other businesses, you just have this, a little bit of a different perspective on things that help you to a certain degree take greater risks, but you also, you're just going through life in a little bit of you can't picture what necessarily the next 5 years.
Does it put more pressure on you to like, you've got it like a certain goals, like, because we don't know how much time we have on this. I mean, and trust me, I'm coming up on 60, right? And like, 59 in a few weeks, right? But it feels like 60.
Another year.
And so I'm like, God, like this is happening. Like, Fob, it's happening.
Yeah.
Like we're getting to that point.
Definitely. I would say it's pressure, but also there is a sort of freeness, that freedom that comes with it that it's a lot more of the life part. So travel, being present with the girls, not overthinking a lot of things. That's where so my girls, we traveled a lot when Paul was here, but the girls and I went to Tanzania last summer. We went to Europe the summer before, where we travel a lot. We sort of try to say yes to as many things as we can. And again, it's sort of not, it's almost this, like, not pressure. It's just this eagerness to make sure you're experiencing as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. You said say yes to something. There was a movie I saw one time called Yes Day.
Yes. Oh my God.
It was like the parents were going to say yes to everything what other kids asked, right?
Correct,
I can't remember how it ended up, but I remember seeing it somewhere.
It ends up, it has a nice arc of disaster, but they all end up happy.
It has to be some disaster in there if you say yes to. I have 2 kids myself, and trust me, I can't say yes every day. Your daughter's going through this with you, like, and your decisions that you make, like how much, when you say, okay, I'm going to start mLOOP, like, are you thinking about your daughters or are you just thinking about Ellen?
Great. I love that question. Talk about one of the responses my daughter had when I started it. I would say thinking of me first. One of the things I definitely subscribe to as a parent, even irrespective of being a solo parent and a widow, is, I talked about this a lot when I was pregnant, but sort of happy mom, happy baby. And I really do think that it applies to so much of life in general, but especially as a parent, they feed so much off of your energy, off of, your day-to-day emotions, things like that. And so for me, when I can give more backstory, but when I sort of saw this market opportunity of mLOOP, did some research, ran some, obviously the financials, economics, and decided that it was worth pursuing. That was sort of the hard stop to say go for myself, because I want to set that example for my girls and for others that you should pursue, you shouldn't do it in a smart way. Don't put yourself, your family into financial risk, but do take the risks that make sense, and sort of show that example. So the girls know about my consulting company and are definitely very, I'd say, adept marketers. They talk about brand story and when a billboard doesn't really reflect the brand, and you'll hear them say things like that. And I'm sure they now even know a lot more than I even realized about loan officers and lenders and recruiting life cycles. So I'd say I did it with me first, knowing that there was something that I really wanted to pursue and see what the opportunity was, and that should have a positive effect on them in the short and long term.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Any final thoughts on I guess with your personal life? And I know we kind of dove into a little bit more than I thought we were going to, but like, I guess for me is like, and I don't know how to say this, right? If I ever lost my wife at this point, right?
Yep.
I think I would be lost. Like I remember losing my father, and my father was like my best friend.
Yep.
He was my spiritual advisor. He was my business like mentor. He was my, like when I needed a lift, you know what I mean? He'd find phrases and spiritual readings for me to read. Like whatever I needed, he was that guy. And so when he passed, I just joined Gabe like maybe less than 30 days.
Oh, wow.
And I was literally frozen, Ellen, for 18 months.
Yeah.
I mean, and I always tell Gabe and Joe, like, you guys stuck by my side. Like, people have come and offered me different positions. And I'm like, I can't.
Yep.
There's nothing that I should say nothing, right? Whatever. But there's like, at this point, like, there's nothing that anybody could say to take me away from Gabe or Joe because they stuck by my side for that 18 months and I was absolutely frozen.
Yep.
I just didn't like, you know what I mean? And grief just comes and we just don't know when it's actually going to end.
Yeah. Or that doesn't end.
Yeah. Or it doesn't end.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also there's something that being a musician, right? I always thought that it was through trauma that I've always made my best music.
Yep.
You know, and the greatest artists have always been, you know, driven by trauma. These events in our lives, they shape us.
Yep.
And then there's this one, I can't remember who, it was Cohen, I believe, who wrote that poem that the light shines through where the cracks are.
Yep.
And so we have to find those cracks within us to let the light out. Is that something that Paul left behind you? Is those certain little cracks to where the light can shine, where you're a little bit more creative?
Definitely. I'd say there's several. So quick answer is yes. The longer answer is that I had such a blessing of my marriage. We got married fairly young. We had our 10-year anniversary a couple months before he passed, and Paul was a huge supporter of our sort of, I'll say, mutual growth, but exploring careers, opportunities. I left a really wonderful career at Coca-Cola to pursue this independent consulting while Paul was alive. So I had these sort of, I'd say, early foundations to entrepreneurship and sort of believing in myself and sort of leaving the traditional to do something different. And so that's definitely there. And I'd say I'm a person of faith. I see and feel his presence and support through a lot of things. And that's where like you still, when you feel like, am I really doing the right thing? Is this the right, would I be doing this if Paul was here? Would I be, would things be different? But it's continuing to, find those moments, find those signs that show that you're in the right place. I think there's also when you're an identity of being a spouse is, theoretically taken away without much thought, or that it naturally as a human, you are also going to be a little bit more creative or find different ways to sort of fill that void.
Mm-hmm.
That's been something that it's taken time. It's not something that, suddenly you're like, oh, let me go explore all these other things I never explored.
Right.
But you do feel this desire to, grow and shift because your life has changed so much.
Yeah, no, I went through grief counseling for my father, and I was like, the funny thing, and I had to say funny, but he was 92, right? And I was like, I always thought he was gonna make it to 96. Right? It was like, 92 is like, if someone says to me, hey, my father passed away, I would say, God bless him, what a great life.
Right.
You know what I mean? But since it was my dad, I needed 4 more years out of him.
Yeah.
All right, so look, LO recruiting.
Yes.
Because I know you were the front seat with us at AnnieMac for recruiting, right? So I got to ask this. What did you see that felt broken to you that you had to go and create mLOOP?
Agreed. So nothing anti-AnnieMac. AnnieMac is still...
No,
of course. But I'd say my founder story has to do with an AnnieMac Discovery Day, so most organizations have an equivalent. AnnieMac does a really wonderful job in their Discovery Days where they welcome, executives and sales leaders to come together, break bread, and, get to learn more about each other. So spring of 25, about a year ago or so, I was participating in a Discovery Day as Chief Marketing Officer at AnnieMac. In the news at that time was a lot about the NCAA transfer portal, NIL, the sort of changing, I'd say, power dynamics within college athletics, putting more power, in a simple way, but into the athletes' hands. That was top of mind. I come from a family of college athletes. Paul, my husband, played football at Notre Dame, and I have some nephews that are now football recruits. And so that was sort of top of mind. Sitting in a Discovery Day, and to no one's fault, but sort of basic questions were being asked. Do you have CTP? What's your CRM? Insert questionnaire. And I was sitting there like, as an organization, there's a lot of resources being spent, time, money, to have executives here. Originators are spending one of their greatest resources, their time, especially, to be there. I'm like, this feels like could be like this should have been covered a long time ago. Like what? And so things, especially products. And so sort of left that. Craig Ungaro, who's a great friend of mine, the COO of AnnieMac, said I think we left that and we maybe went and worked out that next morning or something. And I said to him, you know what I feel like this industry needs is the NCAA transfer portal. And he was receptive, but sort of said, yeah, but anonymity, it's a different. And I hear you, got it. But, you know, like any industry, you know, people told you 15 years ago, you'd be calling a cab on your phone and get into a car with a stranger. People would have said that's, you know, never going to happen. And so sort of sat on it, thought about it. It was the summer. The girl and I went to Africa, come back in the fall, had a couple sort of similar, just I'd say recruiting experiences where it just felt, if you think about it, some people are talking about mLOOP as the Tinder of mortgage recruiting. So sort of swipe left. Right. And so we do a lot of dating analogies to make it sort of click for people. And it just, again, felt like things were like, someone thought you were talking marriage and recruiting, but someone didn't even know if you were, how old you were. You know, it was just like, they're like, things are off track in terms of how we're being matched. So I was partnered with an external researcher. I had someone, I sort of put a platform sort of proposal out there, just like a statement. Like imagine if you had a marketplace where you could get matched anonymously based on data inputs, et cetera. We interviewed 100 LOs and 10 lenders, basically receptive to the idea on there. So I'll pause there for a second to see your thoughts. But it really was that notion of the order and I'd say the power dynamic. So the other side of it is that I knew an originator that departed, again, AnnieMac, because it's a lot of my experience in the industry. And when I spoke to that branch manager about where they went, this was last fall or so when I was thinking about the idea more, it was really insightful because it was sort of, they only knew who they knew. They only knew the people that had been at AnnieMac that went somewhere else, or the 2 or 3 recruiters who just, you know, continued to call on them month after month, year over year. And so I talked to a few more in the research and I realized that was sort of a similar thing. So I was like, but what if there was a better fit for you out there that you didn't even have the opportunity to talk to? No one was calling you and you only knew who you could knew. And then similar, a couple other examples where again, people had gone through an acquisition. They told me that you know, they ended up talking to 25 recruiters and 25 companies. They couldn't even keep track of comparing them. And again, I was like, there feels like there's something in an opportunity of having sort of this data in one place and helping sort of navigate through it.
I mean, it's interesting you said that because I actually wrote an article about like we should have a national mortgage league, like an NFL, where we have like trades between companies. You know what I mean? Like I'll trade you 3 loan officers who are doing $7 million each for a guy that does $35 million or whatever. You know what I mean? And so that, and then you have your seasons or your times that you can actually go talk to other loan officers, and then now you can just focus on work once that period ends.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was like, man, that would be awesome because then I don't have to worry about my guys getting phone calls. Yeah. Now we're all just committed. Like I got them locked down for 3 years. So I think it is interesting what you've done. So when a loan officer lands on mLOOP for the first time, right? Like they signed up, they're like, okay, Ellen, I'm here. What are they going to see? What happens?
Yeah, great question. So I'll give you 2 answers. One sort of directly today, and then one come this summer when we sort of are into a post-beta sort of truly live experience. So when you come, you can produce a profile. So you're going to put in sort of your profile basics, and then through categories like products and sort of specialties, technologies, culture, and leadership, and understand really we're going to ask you through a pretty, you know, easy user experience form, for lack of a better word, what you're looking for and what you're not looking for as well. We do ask some questions about like any companies you'd want to avoid, you know, those things. Profile submitted, it comes into our back end. At that point, this AI algorithm is going to run a match against all lenders on our platform. When the lenders run, we get, so mLOOP then gets back the matches. And so right now we're only showing an LO or an originator a match of 75 or above. Most that we're showing on a week to week, I'd say are like in the 88 out of 100 to 90. I don't think we've had one over like 96 out of 100, but sort of in that type of range of a match. You're going to get an anonymized match card. So it'll say, not that Fobby's on it, but you would say, you know, Fobby, Nagami, and then we'd have the details of who you matched with, but it's all anonymized. It's pretty detailed. In there, one of the things that people are really liking right now, it also tells you, sort of shows you what matches, what works, and then what doesn't, and then some conversation starters. So again, one of the things I saw in some parts of the journeys I've witnessed, been a part of, but also through research is that oftentimes LOs don't even really know what they should be asking to due diligence on a lender. And so we have some sort of general questions you should be asking to due diligence on, but also specific questions to do with what is a gap on the lender's profile versus what you said you were looking for. The LO then gets to say, yep, I would love to be introduced to this lender, and then the introduction's made. Come this summer, there's no intermediary of, I'd say, mLOOP team members. What's going to happen is that all happens on the web app. So I would say, Fobby, you have a new match. You'd log in, you'd see a version of that match card, and then you do get the basically, which everyone loves, the swipe right, swipe left. And so you basically say, great, introduce me. When you're introduced, you stay anonymous. So like, if I showed you a match card, it would say like LO309 with lender 512. You then understand that lender 512 is Success Mortgage Partners. And then you're starting a conversation with their growth leader there. You stay anonymous until you choose to tell them who you are. And so that's what's going to be interesting.
How do they have the conversation? Like that would be such an awkward conversation, Ellen, for me, right? Being a recruiter.
These sort of text, message based, our hypothesis is that people are going to pretty quickly just reveal to, again, this is Fobby, here's my phone number, but there's a little bit of it. We'll see if people really stay anonymous or how long.
I just wonder about that, because that's kind of like if I was on the other side, I'd be like, man, who is this person? Do I know them? You know what I mean? And now they know me.
Yeah.
What caused the anonymity? What was the reason for the cloak?
A lot in our research around originators not wanting their current lender to know that they're looking. So there was a lot of anecdotal quotes we heard in the research of, as soon as you take one recruiter's call, 7 other recruiters know, or you take a second call with a company and all of a sudden that a leader of that company hears that you took that call. Like there's just, it's a big but very small industry, as obviously better than anybody, and that was a high concern. I'm open to, we're not right about everything. It might be that was, a big theme, but in actuality and behavior, people don't really care. So one of the things we'll learn against that through product lifecycle, but that was something that we pulled
I think
out.
the loan officers probably appreciate it, right? I think because I know like when I was a loan officer, that's the weird thing is the recruiting really got more, I think the right word is cannibalistic. that this, whatever we're at right now, where it's just like crazy, right? But I didn't see this at this level until about 2012.
Okay. Yeah.
2014, maybe somewhere in that ballpark, where lenders started hiring recruiters to call loan officers.
Yeah.
And then they would do that crazy stuff back in those days.
Yeah.
In those days, Ellen, they would leave this message like, hey, Fobby, I got your number from Ellen. Could you please call me? I want to talk to you about a loan product. So I'm like, I got a lead. Like Ellen gave me a referral, right? And I called it. And then they say, hey, we're calling because XYZ wants to have a conversation. And like, get the hell off my phone.
I know. I mean, you think about that. I saw a horrible, similar example of that on email the other day. Someone used a bad subject line, like your child is in danger. And then it got the person to, open the email. But
this is awful.
But again, in those examples, it still has been true. And again, this is, broad stroke, but where recruiters are on behalf of a lender calling on an LO. And so one of our, again, sort of hypotheses is what if we sort of switch that? So we remove the third party recruiter. So it's direct to lender connection, as well as put it more power in the LO's hands. Again, it might be that LOs like to be a little bit more, call it dormant and not make the first move, but there are, I think, people out, or we're seeing that there are people out there that are interested in understanding what their options are beyond just what phone calls they're getting.
How cool is it to see your idea actually executed the way you saw it in the gym that morning?
Yeah, it's a great, it's awesome. It's been, we've moved very quickly. So I parted ways as CMO of AnnieMac to avoid conflict of interest on December 1st of 25. I'm like, and so obviously less than 6 months, and we have revenue, we're working. It's so it's great. Still very, very early days, but it's been really fun. I did the other really nice thing. I actually just said this to CEO of a broker yesterday. We have some brokers joining, so we have originators on the platform that are asking for broker connections, and I've been so delighted, frankly, with the contacts I've made in the industry. So I had such a great experience with AnnieMac, but it was pretty, refined to that organization.
Yeah, you're in a bubble.
Exactly. And so someone made the analogy sort of like in the industry, when you're wearing a jersey, it's a certain way, but when you sort of take a jersey off. And so I've made, in the past 6 months, been able to meet so many great people. So many lenders have been, obviously great and supportive, have bought into this, sort of believe in the opportunity early days. Same with originator and other sort of partners side, from whether it's like a model match or a redder or different. So it's been really nice, I think, within having experienced the industry from one purview, but really see it from a separate purview.
Yeah. So look, 5 years from today, mLOOP works exactly the way you want it to, or at least close to it, right? Maybe not 100%, but maybe 75, 80, which is still damn good, right? What does recruiting in this industry look like then? I mean, you would have changed it single-handedly.
I'd say that is sort of, we have a mission vision statement around, to change the way talent moves. And so a few things that have happened over those 5 years is that it's roles beyond loan officers. We already have people asking for wholesale account execs, underwriters, ops and processing roles, specialty roles, basically. And then potentially that we've moved beyond the mortgage industry. There are other industries that have sort of specialized in-demand roles where you can be looking for specific things, like LOs can ask and look for specific products, tech, comp model, et cetera, and find a match. So there's different, call them horizons that we know are out there, but we're really focused. I think I said this before we started, but really focused on getting this value proposition right before we sort of get distracted by other opportunities.
How should recruiters be threatened at this point? I mean, or a little threatened?
Someone said to me at the gathering, everyone's going to love you and hate you at the same time. And so I talked to a couple of recruiters who are, I would say, successful, well-respected in the industry, probably a good 6 or so in the last few months. And there's been some hesitation. There's been some, this is as, I'll say controversial as I would get probably right now, but have a pretty fixed mindset of it's always worked this way. People are relationship people in this business. This is how it works. And again, we know how that happens across other industries. And so I think this will be augmentative to traditional recruiting, and then TBD.
You're picking your words carefully, though, Ellen. I'm catching up on you. I picked up on that.
I think I see a role. So one of the things that we sort of, for recruiters, so I believe in the notion, I know Zimmerman's others talks about this, especially even in the athlete analogies of sort of recruiter becoming an agent.
Yeah.
There is loan officers need support, even when, let's say, you make a match through mLOOP, you're having great conversations, your identity is revealed. There's still a lot of work to be done on the lender and LO side to complete that play. You know that through shifts you've been in career, people you've brought on. We really believe right now especially is in the match, and then sort of handing it off to people in the dating world where you got to go court them and date them and ask them to marry you. We're not responsible for that. So I do see a role of handholder, for lack of a better word, someone helping to navigate that process that's beyond technology.
I've really come to the point that the talent agent, whatever the agents are or whatever, recruiters should be agents. Negotiate the best contract for your client, come back, tell me about it, tell me if I'm okay with it or not okay with it, and let me do my job.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I always hated about being recruited was that the minute I knew that I was in the wrong shop and I was talking to somebody else that had a better shop, I didn't want to be where I wanted. I just want to get it over with.
Yep.
And I'm trying to time everything okay, let's make it December 1st or whatever that date is, right? But at the same time, I just want to get out of here now because I'm losing deals, the rates are high, programs are not whatever it is.
Right.
But the talent scout or the agent needs to calm those nerves down.
Mm-hmm.
And they almost need to kind of handhold you until that date and time everything and make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think that's the new role.
There's definitely a human role in this process. I think and so if I were to say, 5 years, there's an evolution of, that, call it very traditional. I heard people, talk about long in the tooth recruiters, things that are just, cold calling, continue to sort of do the same old journeys or the same old tactics. I do think there's going to be a pretty mean, we know in the workforce, I'm sure you've talked about this many times on here, where the average age of a LO, 54, give or take what data you're looking at. People's way of exploring opportunity, I mean, everything is going to continue to shift. And so I think mLOOP will play a part in how talent moves within the mortgage industry.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to see how this plays out. I'm at the end of my career. Probably I got another good 10 years in me, probably give or take. And so I would love to see changes happen on the recruiting side, because I do think that we haven't been recruiting the right way. I've modified my approaches several times to try to make it a little bit better for the loan officer. I'm not perfect though, right? And so I think that when I heard about mLOOP and I kind of learned more and more about it, I began to say, okay, maybe there is something here. And do wish you guys a lot of success, Ellen. You know that.
Thank you, Fobby. Big fan of yours as well. And follow along and see. There's, like I said, early days. So I'm sure we'll go through many different iterations and shifts, but some good stuff coming.
Yeah. Where do people find mLOOP? Where does it go?
Yeah, great. So mloop.co. Follow us on LinkedIn. Instagram is mLoopHQ. And then we talked about, I share a little bit more about my personal life and journey on Ellen Duncan Official.
All right, Ellen. Well, listen, much success. This is a great episode, by the way. I loved it. I'm glad Justin wasn't here to ruin everything, because he's like a stand-up comic. And so I'm not sure if he was going to handle this one. But anyway, let's get out of here. Okay, Ellen? Thank you again.
Thanks, Fobby. Have a great one.
You too.
Talking leadership, making the big plays in the mortgage game through the sun and the haze. Close more deals, build your success. Time to level up and beat the stress. Get ready to laugh, land and eat.